Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Flawed Man of God. My name is Stuart Davis. I am a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about Christ, introduce you to the faith if you are curious, if you are looking for more to your existence than just this life. Welcome to the show if that's what you're seeking. If not, if you're just here because you like talking about Christian issues or getting a Christian perspective and being part of that discussion, again, welcome to the show as well. This is what we are here for. It's what we're here for. Myself, I'm a non-denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word every day, just trying to be a better human being, trying to be a better Christian, trying to walk a life closer to the path that God set or that Christ set before me, and doing what I can. So tonight we're going to talk about. I figured I try to break up the biblical readings because it can get a little, especially when we're in Deuteronomy and some of the other chapters, and some of the other books. It can get a little dry and a little monotonous. So I try to break it up with topics like this. And it occurred to me tonight as I was imbibing a little bit that I had an empty stomach. So I'm a terrible cook. I'm okay when I'm really put forth the effort and when I'm really when I'm take my time, I can put something decent together, something that people will eat. But I normally joke that I'm worthless in the kitchen. I'm a great taste tester. So my wife is an awesome cook. So obviously that was that will always keep me around because she keeps me well fed. We have a flat iron griddle, very large, that I got for us, and she was cooking up some steaks tonight, and so I got my meal going. But while we were out there, it was us and her parents out there. We were all just kind of talking while she was grilling, and I was drinking some margarita wine. Now I'm gonna be very upfront with you guys because we're talking about alcohol tonight. I drink some very fruity drinks. I'm not the cosmopolitan style or a fuzzy navel, not that far, but I like a good cocktail. I like a pina colada. I like a mule. I like my favorite is and my old standby is a Long Island iced tea. That's when I'm drinking. It's generally not just sipping whiskey. That's just never been my forte. I don't really like beer. I enjoy a mixed drink. I enjoy a mixed drink, a well put together one. And tonight, just a mule, just a basic mule I put together, and it's good. It's good. So you'll see me. You'll see me shill sometimes for a company that's on the other side of the city from us. In fact, I'll do it right now. They don't sponsor the show yet, but Three Crosses Distillery. It's a veteran and faith owned and operated distillery just outside of Richmond, Virginia. It's called. It's in a place called Powhatan. I think no. It's either in Powhatan or in Goochland. It's close. It's right on the line between those, and they are not. They make whiskey. They make a good whiskey, a good gin, a great vodka, but they're not sipping on their own. They're not good on their own, I think, or as good on their own as your more expensive. These are $30 bottles, but they are the best mixed drink liquors out there. The Black Chevron vodka that they make is outstanding. It is better than Tito's. I swear by it. So So we're talking a lot about alcohol right now, and we're talking, and so that's the topic. And I'll get into some chats real quick. Nico here. 6:37. What are you doing, man? Weeb second. Nernanth is going to go play, teach Isaiah. Go for it, man. Good evening, Wild Weeb. Good evening, everybody here. Big Nose Brigade in the house, as you can see, as well. Also, a very large nose. Matched equally by the ears. The nose really grasps all the attention. I have some strawberry. Weeb says I have some strawberry gin next to me, but can't drink right now. It's okay when you can. Derek F., I have to tell you, brother, I'm not a Christian or any other faith for that matter. I do, however, enjoy your live streams when I can catch them. I feel your sincerity when speaking on the matter. That's the important thing. I think that, this will be something we talk about on other, and you'll hear me preach on it a little bit. Not preach in the literal sense, but talk about it. Is you got to be authentic and you got to be sincere, because people who are, I don't know, just sensible, got a lot of common sense, for the most part, can oftentimes see through that. And why do it if you're not going to be sincere and authentic about it? Why are you the only thing I can get into is it either makes you feel better or more that you're in there for the grift, right? The monetary grift, which not a great place, but good comment. Thanks for Derek. I appreciate that you're seeing my sincerity and then you recognize it for what it is. Firefucks. No, Big Nose is Nicholas Big Nose. I know who you're talking about. The funny thing is, in our group, when in our old group, I was the one who always got picked on for having the big nose. So I shielded him from a lot of the nose comments. But when it was just him on YouTube, everybody came out the woodwork on it. So. All right, on topic, alcohol. So one thing I'll notice in this is people know when people who know that I'm a deacon, like people I come across at work or in other facets of life, they immediately apologize when they curse in front of me, and they immediately avoid alcohol or go out of their way to say something about alcohol to me, not in a derogatory sense. I know people who have people around them who do it to antagonize. People generally don't do that to me. It's never really come up. But there's some misconceptions there. Eric Roland, he does a good job explaining my opinion on cursing. I grew up, I had a grandmother who cursed so badly, so often, and with such a diverse vocabulary of curse words. When I got into basic training, nothing the drill sergeant said to me shocked me. It was nothing I hadn't already heard. So I grew up with a lot of cursing and a lot of profanities, taking the Lord's name in vain. And and I used to do the same. I have since fixed that in my life. I have left behind taking the Lord's name in vain. It's something that I'm happy with. I'm happy that I've gotten past that. But that was something that I was violating and doing wrong on a daily basis, and no longer. But I don't mind when people curse in front of me, and just the other 4-letter words that go out there. No JDs, JCs. I don't care to hear it, but I can't stop people from doing it unless they're on the show. I do tell that. We don't do that here. But other curse words, I don't mind it. It's a lot of times they're used in the colloquial sense of just trying to express a thought, not necessarily cursing someone out. But if you exist in the military, you exist in garages, places I've been, both places I've been, dude, they fly everywhere. It's all over the place. You just got to get used to it. And you got to understand it's just a way people communicate. At least that's for me. But Eric Roland, he does a stream on his channel, Angel Legend. If you guys are interested in checking it out, he's got a video on there somewhere where he kind of lays it out there pretty well about my perspective on cursing that he shares. Alcohol's another thing, but this one's pretty much more clearly put, in my opinion. And there are definitely people out there, and there are perhaps denominations in general that have it. Denominations that have it as a stereotype, for good reasons or not, that revolve around alcohol, is that drinking alcohol is a sin, and it's not. It's not. It is very well documented that it is okay to imbibe within reasonable bounds, right? Jesus's very first miracle, at the request of his mother, for the Catholics out there, at the request of their mother, of his mother, his first miracle that was documented in the Bible is changing water into wine. And not just any wine. It's probably the best wine that anybody ever had on this planet. It was probably that wine. And there you go. When you have Jesus on earth creating the very substance that some people shun, you got to understand it's not necessarily sinful. So many things in life are okay biblically in moderation and with responsibility. And it's important to remember that, because I think that stereotype and that thought chases a lot of people away. So, Nico, is this a Jack Daniels shaming stream? No, it's not a shaming stream for Jack Daniels. I do actually enjoy Jack Daniels in cocktails if they're done correctly, especially teas. It's not a bad cocktail whiskey. It is not for sipping. You're not going to find. I am not whatever they call a sommelier version for whiskey and liquor. I am not one of those, but I do appreciate a well mixed drink. And sometimes you'll find some lemonades and some teas with Jack in them that are pretty good, pretty solid. So I do not shame that here, and it's reasonably priced, right? Reasonably priced. And Firefox, maybe it's the massive furrows his nose creates, but his looks much bigger. So I'm surprised that you caught the flag for him. Well, I don't know whose is bigger. It was just maybe mine was just noticed first. So. Wild Weed. That language is everywhere in my shop at work. Yeah, you'll find that a lot at shops. You'll find that a lot everywhere. It just, to me, and a long time ago, my dad told me, he told me about cursing. He's like, "Why do you think people curse?" And my dad curses. Not so much anymore. Once he had grandkids, a lot of his language went out the window completely. He rarely curses now. I think that's more power to him. But I think that if people use it a lot of times to emphasize a thought or to feel cool about something. So, and look, sometimes it's just the way you communicate. Fire says, "I'm not religious, but my parents' family friends are, and so I do my best to avoid using GD, JC to a lesser extent around those family, and try not to curse around family, parents, and try entirely. I will in casual conversation when I'm talking about a subject that I feel strongly about. But you won't see me do it at church because I think it's just not, time and place. That's not the time nor the place. But around some buddies on my own, talking about it talking about things with a friend. Yeah. All day long, all day long. Doesn't the Bible simply actually say, "Do not drink until drunkenness"? I think it has something to do with, just getting into, letting it control you. It's an addiction, right? It's an addiction. We'll get into that in a second. John James, I think they call it a Recado when it applies to whiskey. Fair enough. I am interested in trying some Yellow Spot. I know he's done that before. I'd like to get my hands on some of that because it looks good. And I've heard good things about it outside of that. Whiskey sommelier, that's what it's called, says Fire. Well, I'm not. And I generally don't drink wine either. I don't generally enjoy it. Though they had this margarita wine. My wife gave me a glass of it, and I was drinking that on an empty stomach. So I started to buzz a little bit there, and then I ate, and then I'm much better now. So that's where we're at, and so the drink until drunkenness. That's where you find it. You will often find it's often in the Bible that we'll see that there are times when drinking wine is fine, and then other times, normally when bad stuff happens, it's drinking to excess, to the point where you are losing command of your faculties. And we see things like with Noah, like with Jacob. Jacob's a great tale. He had a marriage ostensibly for his the love of his life, Rachel. And then when he wakes up in the morning, it's Leah. Oops, how could we have avoided this? How could we have avoided this situation? And then what we get coming out of that is a lot of strife, because he does eventually marry Rachel. And so now you've got two sisters competing for the attention and the approval of their husband, and jealous about each other's standing. And so they have as many kids as they can, and go to the extent that they have their servants marry their husband and have as many kids as they can have. So we've got 12. Now we got 12 brothers, and obviously nothing bad happens, like throwing the youngest or the second youngest into a pit and then selling him into slavery. So, that's the thing. That's the thing. And I'm going to get into it a little bit. I have a side of my family that struggles greatly with substance abuse, from alcoholism to pills to drugs, opiates, and it has wrecked some lives, and it has left the alcoholism left much more of a wake, because there were a lot of kids involved in the aftermath of that, and violence, alcohol and violence, and it wasn't a good situation, and it led those kids into their own either alcohol or substance abuse problem as well. The stuff like that, that's where it's a sin, because it's taken over. It has made you vulnerable and give in to doing things that are disgraceful to yourself, to God, to everyone around you. And it has been a tough road for many of my family members that to overcome, and some have not, and some have died because of been consumed by it. And so it was a very big cautionary tale for me. And so I've always kind of kept a careful mind about how often I drink. Now, luckily, I don't really get much out of it. I'll tie one on maybe once or twice a year. We have we go up and do a big bar crawl on my brother's birthday. And usually we get a little intoxicated for that. And then when I go on vacation, there's the 1 week on vacation, I might imbibe, but I'm always around family. I'm always around people who are looking out for me. I make sure it's in a good environment, but I've never felt the need after a hard day that I just have to get that alcohol in me. I gotta have to do it. My addictions probably run closer to video games and being being an ass on the internet. Those are the things that I those are the things that I struggle with mostly. But for the most part, I have not, and for better or for worse, I just have not had the difficulties that some of the people around me have. And it is a difficult thing to watch addiction consume people, and how many people are also left um, standing by and watching it happen or becoming victims to it as well, because they don't know what else to do and how to deal with it. So, John James, quote, a whiskey sommelier is a term made up by some marketing folks in Texas. I still prefer my term. I think they both work. Derek F., would marijuana fall under the same principles as drinking alcohol, in your opinion? I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me read the next one. Grim Kitsune, wasn't Timothy reluctant to drink wine for a stomach problem? Also, what about both of Lot's daughters making their father drink? Lot, that's another one. I forgot. That was the one I was trying to think of. I couldn't put my name on it. Yes, Lot. And that's another story I need to get into, or about Lot's. The whole account with Lot ends at that point. So we have Sodom and Gomorrah, Pride Month. We have Sodom and Gomorrah getting destroyed. And then, Lot's going away. His wife looks back, even though she's told not to. She turns into a pillar of salt. And then Lot's daughters, he gets drunk and they decide, hey, let's have his kids. And then it gets real weird. And you never hear from Lot again that I'm aware of. I don't think of it at all. I don't think they ever say what ends up being Lot's ultimate fate. I think there's some canon, there's some speculation on what happened and who they ended up becoming into a people, a nation of their own, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But yeah, that's a great example. It's a great example. You got both of your daughters pregnant because you all got drunk. They had an idea, and then that happens. So, cautionary tale, guys. Cautionary tale. Would marijuana? So go back. Would marijuana fall under the same principles as drinking alcohol? So I'm very much a don't do drugs at all. Don't do drugs at all. I'm an absolutist. And I drink alcohol. I will smoke the occasional cigar. I find it relaxing. Never had a cigarette, never smoked a pipe, never smoked weed, never have done any of that stuff. More because, again, scared of the idea of addiction to that level has scared me straight to the point where I never veered off of that course. However, with more information coming out about marijuana, that is, I have kind of become more open to the idea that it may be okay, but it makes me very uncomfortable. Makes me very uncomfortable to when I start having those thoughts. And not to say that I'm doubting myself. I'm just worried that I'm wrong in being okay with the use, with the somewhat social or medicinal uses. I think it's okay medicinally to a degree, not like, oh yeah, I got this sty in my eye, so I need the weed to help me with the pain. No, I mean, but like people with glaucoma, people with other things. I mean, there are legitimately worse things that gets prescribed to you and are more deadly and more dangerous to you to help out. And than there is than just marijuana. So that's not. But the social casual use of marijuana, I'm more open to the idea that it's okay. More open to the idea it's okay. I just I don't know. I just, like I said, I feel kind of uncomfortable about it. And maybe that's because I don't know, I don't hang around in those circles. I don't know people who who really promote, weed culture. I find weed culture really annoying because it's just one of those things. It's like CrossFit, and people in many cases to just, that's all they talk about. It's all they talk about. And it's just like, I don't care. I don't care. But at the same time, I'm not comfortable. But when people say that, I don't immediately dismiss them like I used to. Like there are legitimate points that they bring up, like what Terminal Waltz is talking about right now. Oxycodone is legal and has clearly killed and ensnared many more people than marijuana ever has. Yes, I have a very close family member who is a police officer in an affluent area, and many of his calls are for overdosing, and it's always opiates. Always opiates. And it's one addict calling for another addict, or you find him in a car somewhere. I went to go talk to my buddy. He runs a tattoo parlor about getting another tattoo. And when I pulled in, he's standing outside in his parking lot. He's looking at the people in this car, and I'm like, "What's going on?" He says, "Oh, they've been here for 2 hours, and they haven't moved, and they're in there, and I think they've OD'd. So I'm calling the cops." It is everywhere. It is everywhere. And that is undeniably worse than marijuana. And people prescribe it and overprescribe it. My wife had to go to the emergency room for an issue that she was having. And it wasn't that big of a deal. And the doctor on call didn't want to admit her for a surgery that she eventually would need. I mean, it wasn't a life-threatening surgery, but it was one that was probably going to be. It would probably been okay to go ahead and do it from that point. But she sent her home with a prescription for oxycodone, and she didn't need it. She didn't need it. She never filled it. We don't like it's okay to do it when when it's legitimate, but it's so easy to get addicted to painkillers. I have I've had MRSA in both elbows and one of my kneecaps, in the joints. It is very painful. When I was overseas, I got MRSA from the water, from the water. Not even the soap could clean the stuff. Could clean that stuff. I got MRSA from that. My kneecap was the size of a softball when I went on sick call, and they had to drain that and give me some stuff, and it's ached ever since. And then I got MRSA very bad in both of my elbows, from poison ivy of all things. That they when I get poison ivy, they open up. Those wounds open up, and so I was in the ER. I had a fever of 103, and they took me to the ER. They were draining that stuff out. He goes, "I'm doctor." He was an army medic, so it was nice. And he was like, "Look, I'm going to give you some morphine." And I was like, "I don't really want morphine." He goes, "I'm not going to give you enough." He goes, "I'm not going to give you enough, so don't worry about that." He goes, "I've never gotten anybody addicted yet, and I'm not going to do it now." So that was the only time I think I've ever had it, and that was while they were draining the several milliliters of infected tissue or infected pus out of my elbows, and that was not nice. That was not a good time. But I mean, that's again my fear of addiction, my fear of addiction. But I know that I try not to judge people who are actively struggling, because it's easy to say after the fact or before the fact, to warn somebody or to tell somebody "I told you so," because it often comes at a personal bad decision. Whether people have their different motivations, depression, wanting to fit in, wanting to try something new, and it almost always ends badly for them, especially with that. Sorry, weeb. So yeah, Terminal, you're absolutely correct there. You're absolutely correct with that. It is way more dangerous, and that's a big addiction, but we don't see it discussed in the Bible at all. But I think that it falls very neatly into that um, giving yourself into hedonism, which I think is where alcoholism falls in. Where the Bible has many cautionary moments about just hedonism in general. We look at Sodom and Gomorrah, pleasures of the flesh, greed, just imbibing to the point of excess, and just doing whatever. We see Lot and his daughters. We see Noah getting drunk and all sorts of weird stuff happening out of that. We see it a lot. I think David. There were some times where David had too much. Solomon had to be drinking or smoking something. I'm saying this in somewhat in jest. Had to be to get that many women around surrounded by him, because I don't know how anybody, especially the wisest man on the planet in history, makes that big a mistake unless his mind is clouded by the liquor, right? The wine, too much wine. So, terminal waltz, that's awful. Yeah, it's hard hearing about it. I have a family member who is just coming out of on the other end of a bad opiate addiction that he got into around high school, his high school time, and it has set him back. He is thankfully on the mend and looking good, very good the last time I saw him. And that's always great to see. It's always great to see, because you worry about these people, because they do and they act in just insane ways. It's not a mental illness. I don't classify addiction as a mental illness, but it's very close. It's very close in many ways, because your addiction starts making you act in ways that you have no control of, because you are so physically, mentally addicted to these things. And it's not just substance abuse. It is sin in general. When we talk about lust, greed, many things. People addicted to watching Joel Osteen. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to see people do. And it controls your life. It takes you further away from God, because who are you serving at that point? Are you serving the bottle? Are you serving the pills? Are you serving the plant? Are you serving whatever desire you have? Or you're trying to rein it in? But there's grace for us. There's grace and redemption available for us. God understands we are flawed people. He created us. He created us knowing we were flawed. Wild weed, opioids, and benzodiazepines are the most overprescribed drugs that leads to addictions. Yeah, I used to be very on anti conspiracy theory on many things. I am much more open to that idea. The older I get and the more I see how corrupt some people are, and you hear stories about it, there really needs to be some accountability put into place. And whether it's from the manufacturers, because I don't know the system. I don't know the system well enough to say this is what the solution is. So I'm not going to try. But I feel like somewhere in that chain is, and it ends at the doctor when they prescribe it, to have the knowledge and forethought to say, does this person actually need this? And we don't see it. And we look at, when we're talking from a medical perspective, we know that it's not just the opioids, it's not just painkillers, it's also antibiotics. That and what has that created? That has created superbugs and all things, because anything you want, just take an antibiotic, instead of saying, look, I think you can fight this. I think you can fight this off with a couple days rest, and not prescribe the antibiotic, right? So, and people not taking antibiotics throughout the full course, because once you start feeling better, you stop taking them. That's what we, the non-medical people, often do. It happens. And the doctor should know this, because part of the doctor's job is knowing people, because you're not treating the illness, you're treating the person. And if you have a good doctor, or if you have a doctor, you want some sort of personal relationship with them, that they understand you, what's going on, what you're dealing with, um um how you react to things, both mentally and physically. So, Nico, I would prefer people on weed than alcohol. Aside from annoying college kids, people don't do violence on weed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of the stats on that. I just, like I said, I'm very uncomfortable around it, but I'm very open to the idea that I'm wrong about it. To the point where I'm much more relaxed on it than other things. But my lesson to my kids will be, um, don't do it. Don't get involved with it. And but also with alcohol, be like to I have we have family members that I'm going to be able to point to them and be like, look, you see what this did, and I will tell you about how this came about. This all started with one guy with a problem, and this is how many lives have been wrecked in that way. Um, and even though those choices ultimately are theirs, but you set people up for failure, and that's not our job. Our job as parents is to do the opposite of that, not to let our kids get caught up in our mistakes. So, terminal waltz, gnarly. I know you're talking about my my MRSA story. Yeah, it was awful. Since wild weed isn't eating and it's okay. So I had it here. I had it really bad on this elbow right down here. I'm not going to try to get it out on camera, but I've got a scar there and I've got it on the other side. So for some reason, the nurse on call thought it was a great idea to start my PICC line right here on my wrist or right here on my hand. And I don't know what her thinking was on that. I'm not a medical. I'm not a doc. So when they needed to go put the morphine in, you can't put it apparently further up your arm. So she had to inject the morphine into my knuckle on my finger right here on my ring finger. And so I was sitting there, medic's digging into this elbow. I got the PICC line and she's digging into this elbow or into this knuckle at the same time. And I told them both, I said, look, stop. One of y'all has got to stop. I can't deal with both of this going on at the same time. So they got the morphine in, and then he continued along his way. Everything went okay. I had just saved up a week's worth of sick leave at my job. I burned it all in the hospital that week. It was terrible. Wild weed, thankful I'm not eating. Yeah, Derek F. I went through an 18-month stint on painkillers in 2012 due to a near-death car accident. That it happened then. Car accidents a big time where people get hooked on that. I feel that most people don't understand that there's a difference between addiction and dependency. Addiction is mental, dependency is physical. Yes. We kind of lump them in to the same thing because they can both present in similar ways, and sometimes it's hard to draw the line between when it's mental and when it's physical. Yeah. Again, that's a lot of times when people get addicted to pain meds, it's due to an accident. It's due to an accident that has caused them significant pain, and you need those painkillers, and then you don't anymore, but you still feel like you do. And your body's telling you it still needs that stuff. That's a scary thing, man. I'm glad it sounds like you're on the other side of it, and I'm glad of that. Terminal waltz. It's not the substances themselves, right? It's the continued reliance and escapism that's the truth of sin. Yes. But I don't see, when you look at the risk reward on things like heroin, opiates, cocaine, acid, mushrooms, whatever those things are. Some of those things have I'll use all of those and not marijuana. Many of those have documented lasting physical effects that can stay with you and just screw you up. And alcohol, look, cirrhosis is a real thing. Cirrhosis, so are ulcers, which is what ultimately got the gentleman on one side of my family who had the original alcoholism. He died alone from internal bleeding. Ulcers caused by his alcoholism. So, or it was either that or he was so inebriated he just didn't. He had the ulcers. He knew they were going on, but he didn't seek medical attention because he was just hanging out at the house drunk. Terminal wall. Oh wait, Blaine's Escape Corner. I just arrived. I'm of the Church of the First Miracle when it comes to alcohol. Give you a cheers on that. Porcupine Mayhem. Late to the show. Watching on double speed to catch up. I worry about how I sound on double speed. Blaine's Escape Corner. Oof. Our drummer in college had MRSA on his left butt cheek. Ugh. Made Keys replace his bandage partway through practice. I don't know. I don't know where I would rather have it. Don't know where I'd rather have it. It's I feel it in my joints all the time. It always feels like I need to stretch my arms out. I always feel like I need to stretch my arms out. Same thing with my leg. I always feel like I need to stretch it out. I feel like it's always loose. It needs to be tightened up. It's a very weird feeling, especially when the pressure changes, like a storm's coming or the temperature's changing. It's annoying. So, and Nico, no F, no, not the knuckles. Yeah, that's all I felt. It's like, are you serious? Why did you do that? Wild weed. I've done acid and mushrooms and had no issues, except I hated the trip from LSD. Never touched it again. Good. And sometimes, for a lot of people, you do it. Maybe you're addicted to it for a while. I had a boss who did all of that stuff and did some other stuff that's creepier as far as like dabbling in the occult. And the occult thing went sideways on him apparently, and it scared him all the way straight. All the way straight. I don't think he drinks anymore now. A good dude. Olin Long, this is on Facebook. Olin Long and a buddy of mine from church. What are you drinking, buddy? I am drinking I'm drinking Tito's vodka with Fever Tree ginger beer, some lime, and a couple of ice bullets or chilled bullets instead of ice. It's good. It's good. I like a good mule. That's similar and that's close enough to a mule. So a wild weed with mushrooms. With mushrooms, they are fun, but never had any urge to do them ever. I don't think I will again. I will again though. I had a roommate in college. He and one of my buddies who lived a couple rooms down, they got a bag of mushrooms and they went out and ate them. And he told me when he woke up in the morning, he said, I felt like, he goes, when we were at the end of the night, we were laying down in the middle of Main Street. This is Farmville, Virginia, so it's not a very active place at 2 a.m. In the middle of Main Street. Every time we walked, and then every time we walked up a hill, we got happy. Every time we walked down a hill, we got sad. In the last 2 hours, I was laying down here trying to get to sleep. I legitimately thought about jumping out the window. We were on the 3rd story. So, that was a crazy one. Terminal Waltz. This is an interesting one. Mushrooms sincerely brought me closer to God, but that's one substance that doesn't exactly beg you to take more every day. Yeah, I've never done it, so I don't know. But that's an interesting take, Terminal. I'd be interested to hear what you mean by it or how it brought you closer to God. Blaine says, not the butt. That's always the answer. Correct. I take it back. You're right. Nico. In my opinion, shrooms, in moderation, are a natural substance much closer to marijuana than heroin. Could be right. Blaine says, I haven't met a drug that I preferred more than alcohol. Of course, I'm a sake and whiskey snob who likes to taste the different casks and ages. Hey, that's cool. I mean, like I said, if you've got, if it's just something you do, on the side. It's not like you gotta pound those shots. You gotta have that, three glasses in, and you black out, you pass out, and you miss out on time. You wake up, you're late for work. You can't provide for your family. You missed going to church, stuff like that. Where it's taken over. Then that's the problem. I mean, that's the risk. That's the risk. But we are adults. We are expected to be responsible. Alcohol, while probably the most dangerous drug in many respects, I'll argue that opiates are worse, but it's way more accessible to get alcohol. Arguably, the most dangerous thing can be the easiest to moderate if you go into it, I think, with a very responsible. To me, alcohol is like riding a motorcycle. Don't do both, but when you get on a motorcycle, you have to respect the power that a motorcycle has and respect the danger that you are in when you are riding. You have to be conscious of it to a degree. You have to know what your limits are. Motorcycle, especially if you ride a crotch rocket like I used to, are very fast. And it is very easy to fall off one. It is very easy. And one of the reasons why I stopped riding for the most part, or ultimately sold mine, my last bike, too many people texting. There are people around you. You have to be aware of your surroundings. There's lots of dangers out there when you're on a motorcycle. But you can ride and enjoy it. Enjoy it. And I know Olin's watching this. I know you've probably seen your fair share of motorcycle accidents where everything goes wrong. It happens. So you have to be aware. But for the most part, the difference between a motorcycle and drinking alcohol is you making the decision to drink. Sometimes you can't help it if somebody swerves into your lane and hits you or runs into the back of you, which is what I was ultimately the most worried about. I was going to be stopped at an intersection, and some idiot is texting and runs into the back of me and ends poorly for me. But that's the thing, right? So got a lot of mushroom experience here, guys. This is interesting. I don't know a whole lot about it. While we've said, actually, I want to share a story about mushrooms. My first mushroom trip, I was in a dark place and had always been semi-religious, but I truly believe I talked with God, and then it brought me to faith. Okay. I mean, that how some maybe said I'm trying not to, I'm trying to get people's perspective. I don't have this perspective, so it's interesting to hear. Olin Long, never heard of that. Is that a mule? Okay, yes, yeah, that's what I got. I got it. Basically a mule. It's a primitive mule or basic mule. Terminal Watts, tobacco is my true scourge. Not something I ever got into. Cigarettes always smelled terrible to me, so I never really get in it. But I'm getting into. I did get into cigars, and I do enjoy it. Started smoking cigars when my son was born. Still got the box right up there, the original box of Winston's. Lots of Winston cigars for when my son was born. Nika said, when doesn't a cult ever go sideways? I don't know. I mean, they always. I don't know what the context of that is. Olin says he's having a bud with dinner. Enjoy it, my friend. Enjoy it. I had a drink with my dinner, and it was excellent. The food and the drink. Derek says Tito's is gluten-free, the original unbreaded vodka. We're unleavened here, Derek. This is the unleavened stream, but I appreciate it. Terminal unbreaded. Derek, smash that button and sub. Yeah, guys, if I see some folks I recognize, like Porcupine, Derek. I think I've seen you in here before. Obviously, Nico, and Wild Weeb been in here. If you like what you're seeing, and if you're not already subscribed, by all means, hit that like button, hit the notification button, share it if you think anybody else would like it, with anybody else you think would enjoy this. It's very much this is an interactive. Very interactive stream. That's the whole point of this, is to talk about things. Talk about things from a Christian perspective for the most part, and get y'all's perspective on things. All y'all's perspective on things. So thanks, Derek. Yes, smash the like button and sub. I was at just over 400. I think when everything settled down from Nick coming on, and I know a lot of y'all came from there, and happy to have y'all here. However y'all came, Nick's a buddy of mine, and I appreciate what he did for me. Blaine's Escape Corner. Exactly. Alcoholism in the family. So my dad and I are a support group. Sticking to flavor ensures you don't fall in love with the feeling. That's what's it. I mean, I don't. Exactly. You're savoring something. You're not just consuming it because of just consuming it like a chain smoker would go through cigarettes. You're not doing that with alcohol. Cigarettes will wreck your lungs and it will make you smell terrible, but it's not going to do the things I don't think that alcohol can do. Whew. Cigarettes just nasty, I think. And that's one of the things, and I don't know how, I can't tell. I can tell some of y'all are dudes for the most part. I assume gender. I do here. That's what I do. I don't, but like to me, when I was single, one of the biggest turnoffs to me was a woman who smoked a cigarette because it was the smell. And I have a terrible sense of smell. You think this big schnoz can pick up stuff. It can't. I have a terrible sense of smell. But I could smell the acrid odor of a cigarette. Hate it. Hate it. Blaine said, you already said that. Olin says he's seen a lot. Yeah. Well, appreciate what you do. Appreciate what you've done and being there for people, whether they were able to make it back or not. Appreciate it. Porcupine Mayhem decided to skip ahead to the live chat. You sounded like a chipmunk. Thanks. Lost our uncle last year to secret drinking at 58. His body gave up. I haven't seen anybody I haven't dealt with it. At least it hasn't come up yet. Somebody who's doing it secretly. Most of the people I know have done it openly, and to the point where it has controlled their life. And it's difficult watching somebody just fall apart that way. It makes you angry when you see it to the point when there's violence as a brother, because like to me, drunk driving for the most part, unless there's really extenuating circumstances, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but drunk driving to me, if you kill somebody, it's premeditated murder. You knew when you get in there that the means to get back was the car that you brought, the vehicle that you brought, and you knew that you were going to be drinking. You knew that you were going to be drinking. And you knew that there was the possibility that you would have too much and that you would get behind the wheel. And what often happens with that is the person who is drinking will survive, and the people that they hit completely innocently were not. That's my soapbox here. I hate it. Hate it. Don't like it at all. And to me, with having an aviation background, and having that opinion, I don't like if I go out, even if I'm going to have one drink. This is me personally. I don't expect other people to adhere to it at all. But me personally, if I'm going to drink it all, keys go to my wife. She drives. And if she wants to drink, I'll drive. I don't need to drink. I don't need to drink. I have a great time with people all the time without imbibing. So try to keep it as, like I said, that's something that I haven't struggled with. But it's a real thing. And I try not to look down on people. It's when you make the bad decisions, when you know what can happen. Like I said, people drink, that's fine. You get drunk, I'm all right with it. Be responsible. You get behind the wheel of the car. No, there's some real consequences need to head your way especially if you have an accident. But if you're caught, I think that we just look on. We let it go too much. Terminal Waltz, Ari, mushrooms, and God. Briefly, psilocybin, I think I pronounced that correct. Psilocybin tends to break down the ego. It brings a certain humility that demands you take a closer look at yourself and your place in the world. Okay, if that was what's going on, taking your word for it, I can see where that would put you in a place where you can maybe come to an understanding where you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Pipe tobacco, man. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I mean, I'm not against that. I've been interested. I'm open to trying pipe tobacco. If somebody had, if I knew somebody who did, in fact, I got a buddy. I just never hang out with him who will occasionally smoke pipe tobacco. I probably would have tried by now, but where was I at? Lost my spot. You guys are chatting. I'm keeping up. Trying to keep up. That's good. That's good. I'm not complaining. Blaine, sub with this stream. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Hope to see you here tomorrow. See you here more. Terminal said, I think that the fact that man did not create the mushroom, it felt as though it was a gift from creation, but a gift that must be respected. Like all things. It's all things. Like I said, I'm not necessarily condoning it, but at the same time, look, man, you got to be responsible with things. And I can't really point to scripture to tell you that you're wrong. I said it just makes it. Some of these things just make me uncomfortable. That's just me being honest. And I'm not going to say that I'm right or wrong on that matter. But I will say, keep control. Whatever you do, moderation. Keep control of yourself. Bad things happen when you lose control of yourself. Owen says, "Amen." I think I know what you're referring to there. Nico. Talking to somebody else. Olin says, I watch all the time, but I have to work tomorrow with VDOT. I'm going to bed, buddy. Olin, glad to have you watching. I'll see you around. Always good to talk to you. And be good. Terminal, there are no women on the internet. There should be a law, right? Look, we'll get into this some more. And I did a stream, one of my earlier streams with a friend of mine. Her husband is a good friend of mine as well. And he is in the army. He's in the army. And so she brought, I thought it was a great perspective that she brought in, a mom, somebody who is a mom, a mother, and a wife with a husband who's home sometimes and is gone, and different perspectives that she brought. And I have the utmost respect, for the natural feminine aspects that God gives women, and they have a lot to bring to relationships and to humanity in general. But I love misogynistic jokes. They are hilarious, and I love to hear them, and I love to tell them. Derek F. LOL. Wild weed. My aunt would always smoke. I hated the smell whenever I stayed with her, not to mention the filthy smell, I'm assuming, of her apartment. Bed bugs. Ooh, that's the worst. Bed bugs and stuff. Called my mom crying to take me home. Yeah. Oh, man. Bed bugs. That's a whole different conversation. That's disgusting. But my dad built his own house, right? Dad had a very strict rule in the house. It exists to this day. You don't smoke in the house. And my mom didn't smoke, but her mom did. And so she would do it anyway and think that she would. I forgot what she did. She tried to make it smell like it wouldn't smell like it. He got home and he's like, no. He goes, stop. Or she's not going to be allowed around here anymore. He goes, no. You will respect my house. You will respect my rules. I don't care if you're my wife's mom. You will do this. So she eventually quit. But yeah, he put signs up and everything. It was hilarious. Blaine said, good guess. Typically, I'm doing unbreaded anime streams. This chat is a bit more useful for life, I'd say. Yeah. Oh, look, I'm a casual anime fan. I like, there are some things. I like Bleach. I like almost any Gundam series I like. The Berserk series that I recently watched because of just all the talk on Nick's show about it. I ended up getting into that. That was pretty good. There's just One Punch Man. There's a lot of fun anime out there. I don't get into it. Obviously, if you watch this, you'll know that Eric Rollon comes on this show every other week. We do a show together on this stream, and so we talk about those kind of things. So good luck with your stream, and if you follow, if you send me a DM on Twitter, Flawed Man of God, with the link to it, I might check it out. If I got time. Nico came in, sub from Nick's stream. I'm new to Christianity, but currently Jesus curious. I really enjoy your streams and have been catching up on old streams. Thank you. All right, and this is the thing for folks who are in that spot where they're just curious or just kind of in the periphery. That was one of the big kickers behind this. Is when I thought, I went out looking one night, just looking on YouTube for videos about God. There wasn't everything I've seen talking about God comes from a very studious, very theological perspective, and not just, hey, let's talk about things that revolve around God, talk about Christianity from a normal perspective. Who am I if I go into a church, if I'm a nobody and I'm just curious about things, just your average dude walking in, what can I expect when I walk in to a church? And is it going to be, most people think of the Bible as very dry, very judgmental, very, very legalistic. And it's not, it's very rich in narrative. Same thing with a good church, with a good culture. It's not a bunch of people stuck up, judging everybody around them. No, I mean, we try to hold each other accountable to a degree. But, but that's because my perspective is I want as many people in heaven as possible. I want it to be the biggest, baddest party it can possibly be. And that means, putting out there as much as I can. But when I try to talk to people, trying to talk to somebody about Christianity is like trying to talk to somebody about any type of sales pitch. I'm not the kind of person who can do it. I can't cold call it. Somebody has to approach me and talk about it. So I said, look, I'll just start doing these videos and putting it out there. And if somebody comes across them and they like it, then great. I'm glad, then they can and then it became the intent was always to become an interactive live stream. But once they can find these videos and watch it at their leisure, if they're interested. And that because when I start talking about God, it's difficult to get me to shut up, which is why we're over an hour at this point. And we're not even really talking. This is mostly this is on the periphery of God, but it is something that talks about that's Christianity. So Nico, glad you're coming in. Whether you believe or not, obviously, I want you to to get further in, come closer in to that orbit, to that Christian orbit. But man, tune in and get as much as you can, and give me your perspectives on what you see things, because it's very interesting getting somebody who's just getting in later in life to see how it affects them. But yeah. Derek F. Monotheistic fluid. K-Man says exactly correct. I don't know exactly for what, but thank you. I hope you agree with me. I'm glad you agree with me. That was funny. Porcupine Mayhem, you ever coming through Wisconsin ever? I'll gift you a pipe. Used to work at a cigar and pipe shop in Minnesota. Actually met my wife because her mom told me she partook in cigar smoking. She didn't. We married anyways. That's good. Yeah. I mean, if I ever come through Wisconsin, I'll definitely let you know. Be interested. Like I said, this is my man cave, right? And I say that, yes, I know it's a basic term for it, but that's what it is. But it's not in the basement or anything. It's actually a second level floor above the garage, and it opens up. It's got its own porch. And I like to go out there and just sometimes just take in the nature, because I live kind of in a wooded area, and it's just nice, especially on days like today not today, but this weekend where it's nice weather, and it's a perfect place to smoke. Wild Weed. I'm a bit more than a casual anime fan. I would never have been able to tell by your screen name. You should watch Attack on Titan. I saw the first season. I saw the first season, and I think at the time I saw it, it was the only season available. Recently watched it for the first time, and by golly, it was great. It was very captivating. It had it had that normal sci-fi feel to it, where it was um, really sci-fi feel to it, where it's very down, it's very grim. Attack on Titan is very, very grim. And it is not for the faint of heart, but I do need to finish that one. I'm in the middle of Bleach right now. I think I'm in season 11 or 12 of Bleach. Trying to pound that out because I really do like that series, and I've got to catch up on that. But I've got too much that I'm very ADHD. I like to have content going while I'm doing something like playing video games or doing something else, sorting, doing a chore. I've got my headphones in. I'm listening to something. I don't listen to music so much as I used to. But audiobooks, streams, television shows, something in the background that I'm actually paying attention to both things at the same time. It's very weird. But I've got Nick's stream that I catch up on during the day while I'm working. Kind of got it on the background, listening to it. I'm in the middle of Wheel of Time on audio. I'm not in the middle. I'm actually on the last book of Wheel of Time. I gotta finish it. I started it a year and a half ago, and I left and I haven't gotten it. I need to finish that. So started on the last Wheel of Time book. So, and then an Attack on Titan's definitely on that list. So Blaine says we need anyone but Kent Hovind representing us grounded Christians. I don't know who that is. But there's a lot of guys out there that are, dude. There are some. Look, I'm new to. I got on Twitter in November. I've joined only to promote this channel. The only reason I came back to social media, and I got on Twitter. I'd never been on Twitter before, but I took the plunge and did it, and immediately came on. And I found some really cool people on Twitter and Christian Twitter that were really cool, and I found some people who are insane in some of their ideas about what Christianity actually is. And that's a lot of stuff. When you see me and Eric, when we do our Problems for the Pulpit episodes, that almost all of my stuff comes from things that I see on Twitter. People who are influencers, Christian pastors, influencers, like Tim Keller, Phil Vischer, the guy behind Veggie Tales, has got some really weird takes. Very weird takes. It's very upsetting to see just some people who all they talk about is Christianity and critical race theory in favor of it. And I try not to get political on here to a degree. I will be honest about things because I think there are things politically, like abortion, that align with Christianity, and there are other things where they don't. So I try to steer away from it to a little bit, but there are just things that are political buttons that are clearly addressed in Scripture that guide my beliefs in that way. So, but there are some weird people out there, and all you got to do is look at Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, all those. The prosperity gospel is the first place you can look, and you can find the weirdos right there because they're shisty. They don't really have opinions, and they think that they've got and then you've got right below them, you've got other people who think that, hey, I've got this political opinion, or I just want my sin to be accepted. So we'll do that. You can look at one of the divisions of the Lutherans. Unfortunately, I've got some really base Lutheran people that I respect. There are what is it, the EUCA, the whatever, the EL whatever thing of Lutheranism, where you've got gay women pastors talking about just openly married and all this other stuff. And there's a difference between being legal, and there's a difference between whether it is in accordance with God's wishes. So you can do something because it's legal in this nation to do. It's a whole nother thing when you start saying that God is okay with it. It's not a crime to be addicted to things. It's not a crime to be an alcoholic. You can do things. Alcoholic will drive you to do some things against the law, but that doesn't mean it's okay. Terminal Waltz. I've rarely seen a church that actually speaks to real life, especially now. A lot of Christians fail to understand the role of the state in the story of Christ. Rome wants your freedom still. That's in the Old Testament. I'm not even talking about Christ. When we get to Samuel, that's where it is. But you've rarely seen a church that, and I don't know where you live, Terminal. I live, again, right outside of Richmond. It's much more of a very country, little bit more. It's much more conservative bent. It's very casual, but you will find my church. I will say my church has got an excellent culture. I'm bragging on it. My church has got an excellent culture, but it's not the only church in town with a good culture. Look for people who are real. Look for people who are real and really driven into studying and understanding Scripture and helping people out. The culture at the church and its obedience to Scripture are the two biggest things, because a church that is looking out for you, that is creating a community where you are looking out for each other and holding each other accountable and helping each other out when you're down. It's a great thing. It's a great thing to be great thing to be a part of. It's big, and it will help you in your walk immensely. I tell people, get into church. Don't do this. Don't do the stream, especially if you're new to it or if you feel detached from it. Start going to places. Start going to places. Give them a couple of weeks. Show up to the small group services. Find people who are kind of in the same place of life with you. If you're single, if you're young and single, look in the young and single group. If you're married with kids, look in your young professionals and stuff like that. Look for the Sunday school group or the small group that fits your thing. Listen to how they interact with each other. Listen to how they pay attention to how they interact with you, and then also look at how they interact with the Bible and with that stuff. And if all that stuff, if you check off those boxes, good. Keep with it. Keep with it. And if not, check out and put the other stuff and go on to the next place. So, yeah, Terminal, there you go. Praying for you on that one. Weeb said there are 3 more seasons of Attack on Titan now. Technically 7, because 3 and 4 have 2 parts currently. Attack on Titan final season, The Electric Boogaloo Part 4 is coming in 2024. Terminal said, I've noticed that practicing piano is somehow easier with Ricada blabbing in my ear. Do with that information what you will. No, I'm right there with you. And look, I was a kid in class where I had to be drawing in order to pay attention to what the teacher was saying. To the point where I had to tell the teacher, ask me a question. If you think I'm not paying attention, ask me a question. If I'm wrong, I'll put the pen and pencil down. Or if I don't understand the concept, I'll put the pen and pencil down. But if I'm right, let me do what I'm doing. Let me learn. Terminal said, pro CRT religious crowds scare me more than most. CRT is Antichrist. I agree. It's full of hate. It's full of hate and resentment toward your fellow man, which is the exact opposite of what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to look past past injustices and try to come together under in love, grace, acceptance, and also adherence to the rules. And it doesn't. It tries to excuse behavior because of past injustices. It tries to blame people for past injustices. It tries to do all this stuff, foment resentment. Nothing about that is copacetic with Christianity. And I think it's people with a chip on their shoulder, or that they think that they're going to have a better audience and they'll be listened to. Yeah. Derek F. Again, I'm enjoying your casual format. I usually don't engage and or listen to any kind of faith-based banner. I was beat down mentally by Pentecostal and Baptist legalists in my family. Thank you, sir. Pentecostals are wide open, and Baptists can be fire and brimstone. I'm non-denominational, so most of the other Christians out there from the other denominations basically say you're a Baptist. And there are some things. I'm Anabaptist, like Baptists are. I'm not a pedo-Baptist, not to get people on the wrong impression. I don't think that infant baptism is correct. Open to being wrong on that. That's not where I think is correct. But Baptists can be very fire and brimstone. The joke we have around churches, the Southern Baptists are, when you die, you go to hell. You go into hell when you die. Like, you got no salvation, no chance of salvation. You are wrecked, right? And they don't like alcohol. Well, I'm not a Baptist, so and that's not to say there are base Baptists out there. There are guys who are really righteous and really good ambassadors for Christ from baptism, but there's part of that culture that you can get caught up in. Weeb says, here it's sad, but almost all churches here are peddling LGBTQ stuff. Yes, and they feel so corporate. You'll find both of those things in that, especially, and unfortunately, and I'm going to be a little introspective here. You find a lot of that in non-denominational churches because we're very independent. That's one of the things I love. We're very independent churches, but that allows us to control things locally. That also there's nobody from headquarters who can call it in and going, hey, get your act together. You are absolutely wrong with the stuff. And we look at big churches like Hillsong, like Elevation, churches that pull out, that churn out some worship music that a lot of churches love. And my wife loves a lot of their music. But those churches are absolutely compromised. Because they're peddling stuff. They're worried about their income, and they're huge, and they cover things up. We've seen that happen with the Catholic Church, with the Southern Baptist Convention recently, with those things. They come out there. It's not the fact that it happens. Problems are going to happen. Church is a place for broken people. We all struggle with sin, and some people are going to give in and let it rule them in the worst ways possible, abuse power, abuse financial responsibility, abuse whatever, abuse people's feelings. However, we have to be open about our ability to hold people responsible for that and pull them back and say, look, we're not going to kick you out of this church, but you're not going to be in a position of power anymore because of this. You have to step back. And people don't want it because they're worried about the optics. What's the news media going to say? The news media is going to complain about us anyway. And guess what? The news is going to get out. You're not going to be able to keep these things secret forever because eventually they snowball to the point where we get this stuff coming out. And they're like, look, then they say again, look at the churches. They're abusing people sexually again, because that's all they do. Ignoring the statistics where it's a much safer place to have your kids or to be a woman in church than it is to be in many other places in life. But we've got the target on our backs. We're supposed to be holding ourselves to a better standard. So when this stuff happens, it is on us, people from the congregation, to me as a deacon, to the elder, to the preacher, to say, stop. Full stop. We've got a problem. We need to address it. We need to be okay. We need to be okay with the news getting out and understanding this is how we do it. We punish to the point where we remove that person from that location. We show them grace and say, look, you are still you are still loved by God. You are still given grace and you are still welcome here or welcome in a church, depending on what you're doing. Obviously, if you're messing with kids, there's a wall. There are 4 walls around the church for you. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself, or maybe I'm not. Maybe there's a millstone out there for you. But that's the thing. We have to hold ourselves accountable, and we don't. And that's where you get the got a thunderstorm going on here, guys. So I just had a little flicker, but yeah. And then that's where you get the corporate feel, and that's when you get the hang on, guys. Sorry. Monitors flickered. So, but yeah. And that's where you get we're worried about putting seats in the thing, so we need to be okay with being gay. No, you don't compromise your principles to put butts in the seat. If you stick with your principles, if you stick with the fundamentals of Christ, people who seek righteousness will respect that. And that's what brings people in who are going to be righteous. The people who are going to be, you're going to save, are going to be people who understand this is the rules. I know what I'm getting into, and I'm going to be held accountable for it. And God loves me even when I screw up. That's the thing. You don't go, well, it's okay now. Wrong. And that's the problem. That's the problem with so many churches. I hate it. Porcupine Mayhem. Any insights on speaking in tongues with the church calendar and Pentecost? Personally, my take is the Holy Spirit came over them and they were able to speak and understand and preach, not speak gibberish. Yes. And I have a friend who actually had that happen to them on a mission trip in South America. I think it was Honduras. I don't know. Central or South America, doing a mission trip, and actually went from not understanding Spanish to she speaks Spanish fluently in the way that, like, she even orders, when we're at the Mexican restaurant, she orders everything in Spanish to show it off, or just because, or whatever. It's very cringe in some respects, but it's a gift from God that she was able to do that. That's, to me, that's the point. That's the speaking in tongues. I want to have her on for an episode just to kind of talk about that. But yeah, it's not the gibberish thing. Guy I had on here, Hans Feeney. He runs a channel called Lutheran Satire. I highly recommend everybody check it out. He does one where an episode where C3, he does these videos himself. They're mostly animated, where C3PO comes down and crash lands in a Pentecost church, and they're talking about speaking in tongues. And obviously he's a translator, and he's like, none of this is correct. So he's got a lot of great content. So, all right, I'm going to start wrapping this up. But that's my point on that. Terminal Waltz. Most churches are state sanctioned. It's no surprise that they're beholden to these woke corporate standards. I don't know where the state sanctioned part on the church is. Like I said, mine's non-denominational, and I've been non-denominational all my life. Never been a part of the Baptist church or any of this stuff. So I don't know some of the other stuff, but I know we're very independent. We're an elder-led church. So we don't have, so they hire and fire the preacher. So the preacher is held accountable by them. And we select the elders as a congregation, and I'm selecting, they selected me as a deacon. I was nominated and then voted on. And we have bylaws and everything, but it's all internally contained within our church. Nico said, I grew up with Buddhism in Southeast Asia. My first exposure to Christianity was Jordan Peterson's lecture on the Old Testaments, which brought me to God, who smite Israelites and not so forgiving. Nico, if you follow, and if you go back and check these other streams out, and if you follow the Old Testament, God is incredibly, incredibly patient with the Israelites. Not that he was not so forgiving. There was a lot of places where he makes an example out of somebody. But man, whew, they do some wild. They've already done some wild stuff, and we're not even, and we haven't even gotten into all the big stuff. So, look, after Solomon, Israel doesn't have a king that's righteous afterwards. Judah does, but Israel does not. It's just one king doing evil after another. So. That's what it is. He smite the Israelites. He would smite them, but I mean, they tested his patience quite. So, which is why I want to learn more about the New Testament and Christ. Yeah, I mean, look, God doesn't change throughout this. He changes he pivots salvation from one to the other. But Jesus, he doesn't come to change the law. He comes to fulfill the law. And we'll talk more about that. And when we have these streams, we will see them more. Porcupine Man, here, thank you. P.S. I'm a Reformed Lutheran, but Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, not ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran. That's the one. ELCA is the one with the weird woke problem with all the weirdos in it. But the LCMS, that's the one that Hans Feeney is a member of. And I have a lot of people that I follow on Twitter who are part of that group. They're very based, and they're very good. Nico, I want to try attending mass or go to church, but I live in Los Angeles, California, and I don't really feel like going to a local work church. Any advice? How's online church? Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe going online is best for you, because I don't think Los Angeles has very much. I don't know how much wholesomeness there you're going to find in there. So, online churches are okay, and I don't know where to point you to in that regard. But I would look at different different states. What the best part, if you're looking at a church, one of the good places is to look at is what is their mission statement, and are their mission statements? Does their mission start with, what's their view that God created the earth, that God established a covenant? Is there do they believe? Does the church believe in the Trinity? Do they believe that God sent Jesus down? That Jesus is God, lived the perfect life, was crucified, was resurrected, and he was crucified for our sins, and takes a traditional view of marriage and some other stuff. So yeah. And Porcupine says, my church has a weekly live stream. I can post it if you're interested. Look, Lutherans specifically, and they're not the only ones out there, but you can find Lutherans they seem to be very knowledgeable in the word. Very knowledgeable in the word. So, Wild Weeb. All right, Stuart, it's time for bed for me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, my friend. Good night. Good night, Weeb. Glad to have you on. Yeah, so... And then Porcupine says they've got a weekly live stream on that. So good. I could point you in the direction to Hans Feeney. I haven't actually listened to him preach. I've talked to him before. He's got a very good mind. He's got a very good mind for Christ, though. And I follow him on Twitter. He is hilarious. He's hilarious. But it's a lot of inside baseball Christianity too. But he wants everybody to be Lutheran. I can respect that. Terminal, got to get some rest. Yeah, I'm getting ready to close up shop myself. Really appreciate your engagement, sir. Keep up the good work. Much love to you and yours. Thank you. You the same. Blaine said, had a big map on the wall at my church growing up. Of course, that was for showing where our missionaries were. Yep. We had one in the Ukraine. We pulled back when everything got hot. When everything got hot, and we've got one out there in Africa. That we've got, and a couple of missions stateside too, because it's important to have missions inside within your nation, within your local community. So, all right, my LMCS wasn't based. The elders were trying to deny a funeral to a longtime church family member due to opioid-based suicide. Okay, that's not. Yeah, that's Our duty is to be graceful to people in the aftermath of their sin. So, not to condone what they've done, not to accept it as okay, but to give them grace. So, thank you, kind Derek Chef. Thank you, kind sir. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, sir. I'm still trying to line up that SBC Southern Baptist Convention guest to come on. It might not be this week, but we'll see what I'm able to do. I don't do guests on Fridays because it's too difficult to do with that and time with my family. But I do stream, and this has been a pretty chill stream. Hope you got out of it the substance abuse thing I was talking about. Don't get into the idea thinking you can't drink and be a Christian. Jesus did turn water into wine. Jesus turned water into wine, y'all. And but don't lose control of yourself. Don't lose yourself in the way in the just because it's something to do. And with that said, everybody have a very good evening, good night, and God bless.